This is the third revision video for our B4 biology topic, and we are looking at the leaf and plant structure. Now first we're going to look at the overall structure of a leaf. It's got the basic parts of the leaf stalk here, the side veins that branch off of the mid-rib going along the leaf, and the largest part of the leaf, which is the leaf blade, which is supported by these side veins. Now the leaf is really important in a plant because it is the part of the plant where the food is made via photosynthesis. Now we're going to look at the leaf in a bit more detail, and here we've got the internal structure. This is a cross-section of a leaf, looking at the top of the leaf here and the bottom of the leaf here. So if we start at the top, what we can see is we've got a layer here, very thin, and this is the cuticle. Now the point of this is that it prevents water from leaving the leaf so that the plant can keep as much water as possible. As we move further down, we've got this layer of cells here, which is the upper epidermis. Now these are see-through to allow the light to pass through to this layer here that, as we can see with these green structures, contain lots and lots of chloroplasts, which in turn contain lots of chlorophyll to undergo photosynthesis. So this layer that we've just talked about is the palisade mesophyll layer. Now, as I've just said, they are packed full of chloroplasts containing chlorophyll so that they can get maximum absorption of the light that comes through the leaf. As we can see, the adaptation that they've got, apart from being packed full of chloroplasts, is that they are very tightly packed together so that we can get as many cells packed full of chloroplasts near the top of the leaf to collect the sunlight as possible. We move down, we've got the spongy mesophyll layer. Now we can still see that they have got plenty of chloroplasts containing the important pigments for photosynthesis. But the way they are different is that they contain these large air spaces. Now these are useful because they allow carbon dioxide and oxygen to diffuse in and out of these cells, giving the cells around the airspace a large surface area to diffuse oxygen and carbon dioxide into them. Down at the bottom we've got the lower epidermis. Now these are a layer of cells which contain no chloroplasts, but here we've got an opening called a stomata. Now this is useful to the leaf because it allows carbon dioxide to enter the leaf to be used in photosynthesis and oxygen to diffuse out of the leaf for photosynthesis. And this is controlled by these cells here surrounding this opening, the stomata. These are guard cells, and they will help open and close this stomata to control the amount of carbon dioxide and oxygen that can enter and leave the cell. So this photograph here was taken using an electron microscope, a very powerful microscope, much more powerful than a light microscope. Now we can see the structure of the leaf here. At the top we've got the cuticle, the upper epidermis here. Here we've got the palisade cells all packed together to carry out photosynthesis. We have the spongy mesophyll cells, which also carry out photosynthesis but have these air spaces so that oxygen and carbon dioxide can get in and out of the cell and travel through it easily. Come down to the bottom, we've got the lower epidermis, which contains these openings, the stomata, that allow oxygen and carbon dioxide to go in and out of the leaf. Now, I'll go very quickly over some of the adaptations. I've mentioned some of them previously when we've looked at that cross-section of the leaf, but some of them I didn't really speak about in much detail. So I'll talk about those, I'll skip over the ones that I've already talked about, and feel free to pause it whenever you need to. Broad, flat leaves allow the leaf to have a really large surface area to absorb and collect the light, as much light energy as possible. So unless other environmental pressures allow the plant to evolve thinner leaves, then most plants will have the broad flat leaves to collect this sunlight. Most leaves are very thin, so that the gases, carbon dioxide and oxygen, do not have a very long way to travel via diffusion from outside the leaf up to the layers of photosynthesizing cells within the centre of the leaf. Do not forget that this happens by diffusion, so they have a short diffusion pathway. That's really important. Now I've spoken about the leaf containing chlorophyll to absorb the light energy. However, they also contain other pigments which we'll look at a little bit later. These pigments are carotenoids, chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. Now these are there to absorb energy from different parts of the spectrum. This I've mentioned previously, so palisade cells are in neat rows at the top of the leaf. Now veins that go through the leaf contain vascular bundles. Now this allows them to carry water from the root up to the leaves to be used in photosynthesis, and they also carry soluble sugars that have been made during photosynthesis away from the leaf to the rest of the plant that need it. Not only does it do this, but it supports the leaf so that it is able to collect as much sunlight as possible. Now, not only do they have stomata at the bottom of the leaf, they also have plenty of them so that we can get as much carbon dioxide and oxygen diffusing in and out as possible. As the palisade layer gets the most light, it has the most chloroplasts, so this is an adaptation that the leaf has to enable a maximum rate of photosynthesis. This has also been mentioned previously, feel free to pause it if you need to. Feel free to pause this slide to answer the question, why are leaves green? To answer this, you will need to use this graph. Okay, so at the bottom we've got the wavelength of light in nanometers, and up the side we've got absorption of light by chloroplast pigments. We can see that there are three different chloroplast pigments here. We've got chlorophyll A and B, and the carotenoids. Now, here we can see quite a lot of absorption occurring in the purple and blue part of the spectrum, the violet to blue, 400 to 500 nanometers. Here, lots of absorption. Here, at the red part of the spectrum, 600 to 700 nanometers, we get quite a bit of absorption as well. However, in this area here, between the 500 and 600 nanometers, in the green part of the spectrum, we can see that very little absorption is happening. Now, this shows that this part of the spectrum, this green light, will be reflected off of the leaf, and this is what we would see, and this is why we would see leaves as being green. We now need to look at how ideas about photosynthesis have changed over the years. Now, focusing on this, we're going to look at these two scientists, Jean-Baptiste van Helmont and Joseph Priestley. Now, ancient Greeks believed that when plants grew, that they sort of they consumed the soil, and this must be how they achieved their biomass. However, in the 1600s, Jean-Baptiste van Helmont came along and decided to do some experiments to decide if this was true. So, he planted lots of willow trees and left them over a few years. Now, what he noticed was that over time, the mass of the plant had changed. It had increased by about 74 kilograms. But the mass of the soil in the pot didn't really change by much. So he concluded that the ancient Greeks were not right in this, that plants do not eat or consume the soil. But he did come up with the correct idea, that plants absorb water from the roots into the rest of the plant. Although he had identified the importance of water in the growth of plants, it wasn't until much later that another scientist, Joseph Priestley, conducted an experiment to figure out the importance of carbon dioxide. Now, this experiment was carried out by a British scientist called Joseph Priestley. He grew mint plants in a sealed chamber and added, excuse my drawing, but a little mouse in there, and the mouse survived. Now, this showed that the mouse giving out carbon dioxide via respiration was being used by the plants, which then gave oxygen that the mouse could breathe in. And further on from this, it's not until quite recently that scientists discovered that using isotopes, that the oxygen produced by the plants came from the water and not the carbon dioxide. So even today, knowledge like this is providing scientists with clues to carry out experiments and to further their understanding of this process. We're now going to look in more detail at other parts of the plant, such as the stem and the roots, and how they are arranged. Now, feel free to use this slide to check your understanding of these different key words and how they relate to a plant structure. So here we can see a little flowchart of the smallest part of an organism to the largest part that we would name. Now the cell here is the basic building block of every living thing, and if we've got a lot of similar cells together, then they will make a tissue. Again, lots of similar tissues together will work as an organ. A group of organs will work together to make an organ system, and organ systems will group together to produce an organism. As an example, we may have a muscle cell, which would make muscle tissue, which could produce a heart, which would be part of the circulatory system, which would make up some mammal, such as a human. However, in plants, that is not the case, because we are looking at plants and not animals. So very briefly, we're going to look at some different parts of a plant and which of these key words that they are, which of these, are they a cell, a tissue, organ system or organism. So this first one that we're looking at here is a picture of a leaf. Now a leaf is actually an organ. It's a group of tissues working together to carry out a function as an organ. This is a picture of a vascular bundle, and these are tissues, as these are groups of cells that are working together to provide a function as a tissue. Here we've got the flower part of the plant, and this is an organ system, as there's lots of different organs working together to provide this function. In plants we've got two major tissue types. We've got the xylem and the phloem. Now these two tissues are found within what we call the vascular bundles. This slide shows a cross-section through the root of a plant. So this is the cross-section. Here, branching out, we can see the root hair cells, which will increase the surface area for uptake of water. Through the middle of the root, as a cross-section, we can see that we've got the phloem, which are these purple parts here, and running directly down the middle, we've got this starfish-shaped area, which is the xylem. Now these two together are the vascular bundle within the root. The cells that make up the xylem have really thick, strengthened cellulose cell walls. This provides support to the plant. In the root, it helps it act like an anchor and allows it to bend as the plant moves in the breeze or is tugged up from above. Now here we've got a cross-section of the stem in a plant, and we can see already that it's really quite different. The vascular bundles are found in these small sections here around the stem. And we have the phloem and xylem running throughout these vascular bundles to other parts of the plant. Those thick, strong cell walls that we talked about earlier with the xylem, when they're in the stem, provide some support in that it prevents bending while there's a breeze, any strong winds. Here we can see two photographs of vascular bundles. Now vascular bundles not only carry water and soluble materials around the plant, but they also provide a structure. We can see in a lot more detail here up close a vascular bundle. We've got the phloem and the xylem here. Here in this part, this is a cross section of a piece of celery, and we can see that the vascular bundles are found here. Once the vascular bundles reach the leaf, we can see here we've got a cross-section of a leaf, which you should be familiar with now, and here we've got the vascular bundle running through the thin leaf structure. And as well as transport within the leaf, this provides support to the softer leaf tissues that are a little bit more delicate than the stem and the root. We're now going to look at the xylem and phloem in a bit more detail. Now the cells that make up xylem tissue are actually dead, and they form a hollow tube with the area inside being called the lumen. Now having this hollow tube-like structure allows the xylem to transport water and dissolved minerals from the roots to the shoots and leaves of the plant. Now phloem are similar to xylem in the way that they are cells stacked upon each other to create a hollow tube. However, these cells are not actually dead, these are living cells, and these help to transport substances such as glucose that's been made in the leaves around the plant.